the compelling advantages of a cloud migration. You may be thinking to yourself or even talking within your company about why would we even bother doing a cloud migration? Why not just keep everything premise-based and stick with what we're used to? Well, there's some good reasons why you should do a cloud migration. My name is Matt Rosenthal. I'm the CEO of Migrate Technologies. We've been assisting firms with cloud migrations for over 10 years. All sorts of cloud migrations, all different types, different platforms. And I can tell you with certainty, there are far more advantages to move to the cloud than there are advantages to stay premise-based. Let me give you 4 or 5 highlights, and at least this will give you something to think about, help you with your conversation. The number one most important thing for you to do is to step back and say, what is the reason we're even having this conversation? What's the advantage to moving to the cloud? What would be the main impact to the business? Well, oftentimes when you step back and you look at that, you will find that, first of all, you're going to look at the costs. It's not always going to be that it is cheaper to move to the cloud. So that isn't one of the items I'm going to present to you, because sometimes it's not on the surface cheaper. But what is certain is that when you do move to the simplicity, the automation, the management of the systems are all far more advantageous than the amount of work, the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of thought that goes into managing and maintaining the premise-based systems. So putting those together, again, simplicity, less need for management, the automation. So for example, when you move into an Amazon or Microsoft infrastructure, so many of the things that you're doing right now, you don't have to do the upgrades to the operating systems. So much of this is handled for you with various cloud solutions. And so when you consider migrating to the cloud, do it from the point of view of what are the advantages, not possibly a place of fear, which is, well, what could go wrong and what are the disadvantages? Think of it as an opportunity to take your business to the next level. So looking at things like scalability and the ability to, as you continue to expand, to not have this huge overhead and having to do these heavy lifts where if you're going to bring another location on or add another location, for example, or bring on 50 more people, that you've got to think about, wow, it's such an overwhelming thing to do. It's really not. When you're in the cloud, it's simple, it's already baked in, it's already part of the solution. You just need to figure out how much resources you need, maybe some licensing, but wow, is it much simpler. Understanding the cost efficiency of a cloud migration can be very complex. I had a conversation with somebody actually just this morning where they have a premise-based system. There is a compelling argument for them to move to the cloud. However, when the conversation was brought to ownership, of course, it was almost double the annual cost. At least, I'm not sure how they even figured that, but somehow they came to the conclusion it was double the annual cost. They're not factoring in something that you should be factoring in. And we tried to lead them on this, and it's still an ongoing conversation, but what you need to factor in is the return to operation if you have an outage, if you have a breach, the recovery, the business continuity, the disaster recovery, I should say. Those things all have value. Those things all matter when you actually have a problem. You are down, you can't get back up because your premise-based system isn't operating the way that you wanted or expected it to. Whereas when you're in the cloud, you're just going to essentially say, hey, we need to restore a server. That server's back up and running. Could be a half hour, could be an hour. I mean, there's factors, but you know that continuity is there. So when you look at the compelling advantages and then try to bring it down to cost, you've got to really make sure that the items that don't have a specific cost are actually given a value. So that downtime needs to be given a value. The restore needs to be given a value. These are often things that are overlooked in the conversation that I'm mentioning to you guys. The people that are weighing it, they're not putting that together. They're just saying, well, a server costs X, the software costs X, let's just replace it and put everything back on site. But you're going to do it again in 5 or 6 years. You're going to have ongoing costs during that time to manage it, to maintain it. Sometimes you can't put an exact number on that, but when you do step back and look at all that, it doesn't cost twice as much to be in the cloud. Again, it's different for every business, but you've got to make sure that you're looking at the right advantages and that you're putting the right weight on those advantages. So I'm kind of jumping back and forth and sharing with you some of the reasons that you should move to the cloud, some of the things that people look at when they almost begin to talk themselves out of moving to the cloud. Don't let it take on a life of its own and become a conversation about why you shouldn't move to the cloud. The advantages are compelling. The reasons to move to the cloud far outweigh the reasons not to. And you just need to make sure you do your due diligence, get your facts together, really get the numbers together correctly. And that might mean you need somebody else to kind of step in there and say, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about that? But don't overlook and undervalue scalability, less need for management, simplicity, automation, and all of the reasons that you should move to the cloud. So my hope was that this video gave you something to think about, inspired some points of view that will assist you in your conversation and your analysis. If there's anything that I can do to be of assistance or to offer more value, please feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me, you can call me, you can send an email. I'm here for you. And again, this isn't something you should take lightly. It is a serious conversation, but if you find yourself coming to the conclusion that it is not a good idea to move to the cloud, you might say to yourself, wait, maybe we missed something, because that should not be the outcome of this analysis. So again, hope this was helpful, and I thank you for watching.